Good evening. I am going to give some time for people to get in the room. Thank you to those of you who are already here. And I'm very excited about this opportunity to engage specifically with people who are caregivers or loved ones of people with depression. And so I'm going to start in a little bit, but before I get started, I am a minister. That's the first thing. And so although there might be people who don't subscribe to Christianity or, this is not specifically for Christians, but because that's who I am, I'm going to start out with prayer, and that's how I'm going to close. And so, Father God, we just thank you for this opportunity. We thank you, Lord God, for the messages, for the content that you've provided. We thank you that it will be a benefit to a community of people who are very often overlooked. So, Heavenly Father, I pray that what you've given me will be a benefit to somebody who sees this, whether they are watching it live or whether they will watch it later. I pray that you will move by your spirit in such a way that they will be impacted by it, that they will be even delivered through something that I might say. And I just thank you for just giving me this vision. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. So good evening, everyone. I just want to start off by introducing myself. Some of you may know who I am, and some of you may have even been with me a couple years ago when I started doing Mind the Mental Mondays. And I kind of stopped doing them for a period of time just because I really needed to regroup and pray about the direction that God was going to have me go with this. And so after a lot of prayer and a lot of just waiting to really hear clearly from God where he wanted me to go with this, I'm back. And I am focusing these Mind the Mental Mondays on caregivers, loved ones of people who battle depression. And my reason for that is because I've seen a lot out there for people who actually do battle depression, but I haven't really come across a lot around people who are caregivers, people who are loved ones, people who live with and are sort of a part of another person's struggle with depression and sort of finding their place in it and navigating their place and space in it. And so my goal here, and I'm actually really jumping ahead of myself, but my goal here is to really establish a community of people who are loved ones or caregivers of people with depression. And so I hope that you all, those of you that are able to see this, will benefit from it and will get something out of it. So let me just introduce myself, or maybe reintroduce myself. I am Reverend Benita Weathers. A caveat, I am not a licensed mental health practitioner. I am not. And you may have seen me on lots of different platforms talking about mental health. That's because I am an advocate of people who battle depression. I am an advocate of people who are dealing with mental health challenges. And so professionally, I have a master's in public health and health behavior and health education. I have a master's of divinity. I am a senior research project manager. I am also an associate pastor at the Vision of Hope Baptist Church located in Jenkintown, PA, where the marvelous pastor is Pastor Reverend Dr. Wayne Weathers, who also happens to be my husband. I just had to give that shout out because I can. And so let me just tell you a little bit. That's just a little bit about my credentials. It's not really about who I am necessarily, but it's a little bit about the credentials that I do have. But also, let me just tell you a little bit about my why. The reason why I am an advocate for people who battle with depression specifically, but mental health in general. One, and my main why are my family. And so in my family, I have my husband and my daughters who battle with depression. And so in just living with them, watching what they go through, and wanting to be loving them, first of all, with my whole heart. People say the bottom of my heart. I don't like that. It's not just the bottom of my heart. I actually love them with my entire heart. Yeah, and wanting to be able to provide some kind of support when necessary. That is my why. That is why I am interested in destigmatizing mental health care, especially in churches, in communities of faith, in African American communities. I want us to normalize taking care of our mental health, just like we normalize taking care of our physical health, because everything starts in the mind, and what we're thinking in our minds impacts what we're going through. It impacts how we're living in our bodies, and it impacts our physical health as well. So I really like to get the message across that mental health is health. I have a desire to make mental health care a family affair. In other words, let's normalize talking to our children about mental health. Let's normalize having them to equip themselves or be equipped with the tools necessary to navigate when they're having a serious mental health crisis or challenge. Let's empower parents to get away from the stigma, the stereotype of needing to see a therapist, meaning that you're crazy. It's not what it means. What that means is that you have the wherewithal to understand and acknowledge that you need help from somebody who is trained, who is a professionally trained person who can help you to navigate some of the trauma that may have caused you to develop some kind of mental health challenge. So that's all that is. And so it's my passion, really, to go around wherever I can. So I have, just to let you all know, I've developed a workshop that I do with churches. I love talking to churches in particular about mental health. And I bring it from a biblical perspective. I've done quite a few virtual workshops, virtual seminars, presentations around this very topic because I'm very passionate about it. And I think that our communities will be much better off if we take the time to embrace and normalize getting mental health care when it's necessary. It's not necessary in all cases, but it's necessary often. And a lot of times it goes undetected or it just goes ignored until, unfortunately, sometimes it's too late. So that all of that is my why, is my reason for doing these. And so I hope that again that you will benefit. So the purpose of Mind the Mental Mondays, the purpose of this platform and for my reason for doing these is to create a safe space for caregivers or loved ones of people with depression to be in community. Again, as I said earlier, I haven't really seen much out there concerning caregivers of people who battle depression or other types of mental health challenges. And I think it's important for there to be a community so that you know that you're not alone, so that you understand that the way that it impacts you is normal, and others are facing some of those same challenges as well, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. We need each other. We are community, so we need each other, and it's important that we develop a type of community for those of us that are caregivers. The other purpose, one other purpose is to provide practical tips for navigating some of the challenges of supporting loved ones who may have been diagnosed with clinical depression or even other mental health challenges, but I'm focusing on specifically on clinical depression. I will be providing tips and talking about providing resources, and I'll be sharing different topics that some of you may be able to identify with. And hopefully that the information that I provide with these weekly sessions or Facebook Lives will help you to sort of navigate maybe some challenges that you might be facing as well. And again, the reason that I'm doing this is because we understand that when we're loving and supporting and living with and being with someone who deals with or battles with depression, it also impacts everyone else in the household. And so it's important for us to have these conversations so that we can understand again and normalize those things that we might feel ashamed of, or we might, because of the stigma attached to it, that we don't talk about enough. So what this is not, and for those that might be leaving comments, what this is not, it is not a space for us to complain about our loved ones. That's not what this is about. This is a space for loved ones to share tools for maintaining their own mental health while loving on and supporting their loved ones. So that's what this space is for. And I want to be very clear about that. And so with that said, tonight's topic is entitled, "It's Not Your Fault: Navigating Self-Blame When Your Loved One is Unhappy." What those of you who have experienced being in close proximity to someone who battles with depression, one of the things that you might notice is those times where they appear to be very unhappy, and it's beyond just being unhappy. It's not being able to get out of bed. It's not being able to really just come up out of a very dark place, or come up out of something that has triggered this particular bout of depression that they might be having. And when they're in that kind of a state and you love a person and you want them to be happy, right? You feel like you want to make them happy. And sometimes when you're not able to make them happy, you end up sort of in some ways maybe blaming yourself for the person not being happy. You might you try to do all kinds of things, right? You might, try to fix a favorite meal, or, try to have like an upbeat conversation, and like nothing that you do, nothing that you try seems to help. And it's really hard seeing someone that you love in a state like that. It's very, very difficult. And so clinical depression, however, is less about happiness and more about traumas that have occurred in a person's life that then causes triggers in other aspects of their life. And so if there's say, for example, somebody makes a statement, or somebody makes some kind of a gesture toward a person, and that gesture or that comment or even that setting puts them back into a space where they were traumatized, it can bring on a bout of depression. And so it's not so much about happiness. It's more about needing to confront and navigate how to get through a trauma, or the response to a trauma that could have happened many, many years ago. And for those types of things, it's really necessary, that's when it's really necessary to speak with a certified mental health practitioner, someone who is licensed, someone who has the education, who can actually help them to work through what's happening in those moments, what's causing those triggers. And so when something like this occurs, when a person is triggered to a point where they become very depressed, or they're in a bout of depression, there's nothing that you can do to make them happy, right? Because also happiness comes from within. So their happiness comes from their ability to navigate those traumas and work with somebody to get to a place where they can get through the situation that is occurring within them. But when your loved one is having a bout of depression, it affects you, right? Because when you love somebody, there's absolutely no way that you can see a person that you love in distress and just be okay with it. There's no way that you can do that. So when that happens with them, it impacts you, right? And so I'm not sure if people are making comments or anything. I can't really see the comments, but I'm going to look before I finish this to make sure I address. So if you have comments, go ahead and leave them. Also, my team is on standby, so they're watching. All right. So I just wanted to say that. But going back to what I was saying, but when they're having about a depression, it affects you too, right? It impacts you. It impacts your mood. It can impact your mindset. It can cause anxiety because you really have a strong desire to help make them happy again, right? To help them through whatever is going through. It can give you the blues again, because when you love somebody, it makes you sad to see them in a place that's difficult for them to come out of. And so because you don't know what to do for them, and because you don't feel like you have the tools within yourself to bring about a positive change in their mood, or in how this particular bout of depression is affecting them, um, it causes you a little bit of distress. So what can you do? So one of the points to me doing these lives, Mind the Mental Mondays, is to also try to equip people with tools to sort of help you navigate. And so this here, I'm talking about navigating self-blame and understanding that if your loved one is not happy, if your loved one is having a bout of depression, it's not your fault. And beyond it not being your fault, there's not sort of a physical thing that you can necessarily do to bring them out of it, because it is work, it's inner work that they have to do, that they have to take part of for themselves. So it's important in these circumstances to remember that it's not your fault. And instead of expending a lot of energy trying to make them happy, try a few of these things. So one thing you can try is asking them directly, how can I help? How can I help you to manage, navigate, get through, process this bout of depression that you're having? And they will let you know either by having a conversation with you, or they'll say, there's really nothing you can do. It's not you. It's not something that you can do. It's something that I have to work through. And so very often, of course, it's something that they will have to work through. But some of the things that you can do that perhaps you can be a listening ear. Sometimes it's not so much that you need to say something or provide some kind of advice or anything like that. Sometimes people, and it's not just people with depression, this is anybody really. Sometimes people just need to be heard. They just need a listening ear, and they need the ear of someone who can be objective about what they're going through, who is not going to be judgmental about what they're facing. There might be something that that person is going through that is really a struggle for them. For somebody else, it might not be. And so it's important, while it's important to not blame yourself, it's also important not to treat the person as if what they're going through doesn't matter. It matters. If it matters to them, it matters. If it matters to them, it's important. So just taking the time to listen, and not just listen, but hear them, really try to empathize with what they might be going through. Really try to put yourself in their shoes. What if you were facing some kind of an issue or struggle or trigger or challenge that didn't seem all that big of a deal to somebody else, but it is to you? What if you were facing something like that, and somebody that you loved and somebody that you depended on for support just dismissed it as if it's not important, as if your struggle doesn't matter, as if it's just nothing? How would that make you feel? So empathizing, trying to put yourself in their shoes, encouraging them to find a therapist, or if they already have a therapist, encouraging them to make an appointment. And what we've come to understand, sometimes people might think that if they have a therapist and they've gone to therapy and they feel like they've kind of gotten through, what we understand is that therapy is not a one and done. they're usually, when a person initially starts therapy, they need several sessions in a row, maybe for the first year or so of going to therapy. And then after that, even when they've gotten to a place where they can sort of manage their mental health challenges themselves, there are some times where there might be points that they might get into a bout of depression where they need to go back again. That is totally normal and completely okay. So so again, let's normalize that. Know your limits. If you're not a trained therapist, don't try to be that. For me, and my husband doesn't mind me talking about this because we talk about it together. We've been on platforms together. I wrote a book about his bouts of depression. But one of the things early in our marriage that I expressed to him was that I can't do anymore. I'm at a point where I can't really help in this particular area that you need help with. You really need somebody who is a trained person who can actually give you the tools that you need, because I don't have them. I love you. I'm here. I'm a safe space. You can talk to me about anything, but I'm at a point where I really don't have the capacity, nor do I have the training or the knowledge to be able to help you through. Now, for me as a Christian, I'm always going to pray. Prayer is going to be always my go-to. I'm going to pray about everything. I'm going to pray about the therapist. And so in this case, I'm my loved one. I'm going to pray that they find the right person, the right therapist, because not everyone is the right one. Make sure they find the right person that they can talk to, and that they can really get the work done, the internal work that they need to get done. So know your limits. Don't try to be more than you are. Be a listening ear. But when you get to a place where you feel like being a listening ear is not enough, be honest with your loved one and say, I can't really help you. I'm beyond, I've reached my limit or my capacity for what I can do in this particular situation. If you are a trained therapist, and every therapist friend of mine, and I have quite a few, but every trained therapist that I know will not be therapists for their family members or their friends. You need somebody else who is not that close to you, who can really be objective about what you're going through. So if you are a trained therapist, don't try this on your loved ones. Help them to the extent that you can, but you've got tons of resources, I'm sure, that you can give to them to help them to get to the place where they need to be. Another thing is to give them space to process for themselves what's going on internally. Don't just keep hounding them. Are you okay? Are you okay? What's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you acting like that? You know how we can do, y'all. We know how we can get. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you acting like this? And we can get all in a tizzy. That's not helpful. What is helpful, or what can be helpful, is to give them space. Give them space to go off on their own where they need, whether it's another space if you're living together, whether it's another space in your house, or where they need to take a drive, whatever they need to do, they need to have space to process what they're going through internally. We can't do anything about that, right? Caregivers and loved ones, we can't do anything about that. All we can do is to be helpful, is to give them the space that they need to process. While giving them space, also give yourself some space. This is a time that, as they're taking space, that you too can take space to sort of process for yourself how what they're going through might be impacting you, and not pretend that it doesn't. And so take some time to yourself, pray, meditate, read a book, work on that project that you've been putting off for some time, right? Take a walk, do some deep breathing exercises, exercise. So our church, we have a virtual aerobics that Minister Ebony does every week, Mondays and Thursdays, 6 and 10. Anybody is invited. It's chair aerobics, so it's low impact. So, and it's virtual. So come on and join us if you want to. Put it in the chat if you're interested, or message me and we'll get the information to you that you need. Journal, write about how it makes you feel, because you can't really help provide any kind of care or help to somebody else if you're not helping yourself. We're going to talk about that next week. That was a little peek into next week's topic. The other thing you can do is see a therapist yourself. See someone who can help you as you are trying to navigate what your loved one might be going through, because 9 chances out of 10, you might be going through some things yourself, right? That doesn't even have anything to do with your loved one, right? That really, a lot of us have some internal kinds of things. A lot of us have traumas that we might have experienced in life. And even though it might not impact us the exact same way as somebody who is diagnosed as clinically depressed, that is somebody who is depressed consistently daily for at least a period of 2 weeks straight. So everybody knows it's not just, oh, I'm just kind of feeling, I just have the blues today. It's an extended period of time of feeling this way. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself about how it makes you feel. And also be honest with your loved one, because they will appreciate it. You might fear that by being honest and saying that this impacts me too, might then trigger them and send them into another depression. But what it does really is brings the two of you together more and allows you to work through it together. And so I think that honesty is very, very important. So those are just a few tips on just navigating self-blame. If you're a caregiver or a loved one who has depression, I've set these Mind the Mental Mondays to be anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour, because I don't want them to be too long. I just want to give you a snippet. I will be creating some other materials that I will make available to people in the community, people who decide to come along with us in this community. So thank you for joining me on this Mind the Mental Monday return. Next week, my topic next week is putting on the mask by taking it off. And if you want to know what that means, join me next Monday, 8:00 p.m. right here on Facebook Live. If you have a loved one who battles depression and there are specific topics that you're interested in having discussed, please inbox me. Again, my team will collect those topics and I will bring them to you on one of these Mind the Mental Mondays. Please like, comment, share this information. I really would appreciate that. Also, please give it a star. If you feel like this material is something that's important, if you feel like this community is important to establish, I need your help in getting the word out about it. I need you to share it. I need you to I need you to star. I need you to do all of those things. This will also be available. I'm hoping to make it available also on my YouTube page, but right now it's on Facebook, and it will be available on Facebook. All right. So thank you very much. Again, I hope to grow a community that will be a benefit to caregivers and loved ones with people with depression. Again, look for additional materials that will be coming in the near future. There are ways, let me just show you really quickly how you can get in touch with me. Give me just 1 second here. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. So if you want to get in touch with me or communicate with me, you can go to my website. It's just benitaweathers.com. You can reach me on my email address, blweathersllc@gmail.com. Reach out to me on Facebook at Rev Benita Weathers, Instagram at Benita_Weathers. These are just a few ways that you can get in touch with me. If you're interested in having me to come and do a workshop at your church, whether it's in person or virtual, reach out, let me know. I'm here. So with that said, I hope that you all have a wonderful night. God bless you, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.